Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In this video today we're checking out a video titled "Why Scandinavian countries are outperforming the UK in every way." And that's a little bit of a crazy title, but let's see what's going to be true about this. I know the economy is definitely better in the Scandinavian countries, but let's see what else is better, because there's definitely a lot of job opportunities I feel in relation to that, but I'm kind of curious about the other stuff they're going to mention.
You might perceive the UK as the undisputed giant in the fields of technology and development. But do you know just how many things this country is lagging behind in? Over the last few years...
I mean, yeah, there's definitely crime rates gone up. There's also a lack of jobs. It's so hard to get a job nowadays. The cost of living crisis. There's a lot of things that are happening right now, but I feel that's a lot of countries though.
Yes, Scandinavian countries have become significantly better than the UK in several different fields. So it makes you wonder, is the UK facing its own gradual downfall? In this video, we'll explore all the different sectors in which the Scandinavian countries are succeeding, but the UK is falling. In the UK, the National Health Service is supposed to be the great equalizer, providing healthcare for everyone regardless of where they live.
That is true,
but in reality, there's a catch, and it's what some called the postcode lottery. The quality of care you receive can vary quite a bit depending on where you live. For instance, in a busy city like London, you might wait a long time for routine surgery. Then head to a rural area and you may have even more trouble, including delayed appointments and services stretched thin. However, in some regions, this backlog is hitting poorer areas particularly hard, while others are faring a little better. This is a tale of two systems, one in each country, with patients stuck in the wrong place at the wrong time. But in Scandinavia, it's somewhat different. Denmark and Sweden, in particular, have healthcare systems that have a secret weapon: decentralization. Picture that you are walking into a clinic, no more dealing with the heavy bureaucracy of the nationally controlled healthcare system, but something else, something more tailored to the needs of your particular region. In Denmark, for example, public and private healthcare go hand in hand. Roughly 42% of Danes hold private insurance to cover service that the public system doesn't fully handle, like certain prescriptions or elective surgeries. This means they get faster access to the care they need, and the system can adjust to local needs more effectively. Sweden takes it a step further by letting its 21 regions manage healthcare independently, which helps balance the quality of care across the board. You can see how this keeps the postcode lottery issue at bay. Everyone, no matter where they live, has equal access to quality healthcare. But it's not just the structure that sets Scandinavian healthcare apart. This decentralized model also makes room for innovation. Denmark, for instance, encourages partnerships between the public and private sectors, which means more experimentation and improvements in patient care. The system isn't rigid, it's adaptable, and in healthcare, adaptability is everything.
That is true, yeah.
Now let's talk about the one thing that the UK seriously...
Okay, so the main topic was healthcare. I have to say, I kind of am grateful for the National Health Service. You do have to wait long times for appointments. If you want a doctor's appointment, you literally have to get up the first thing in the morning and call, and then you're stuck in a waiting line to book an appointment. It's so annoying. That's the only way you can actually pretty much book a doctor's appointment. But I am grateful because the UK healthcare system isn't the best, but I am grateful, especially compared to the United States, where if you get a disease, you're ill, you get a massive bill as well. That's not fair. So although the UK isn't perfect, I am grateful for the NHS.
Needs to improve. In the UK, trade unions have been on a steady decline. In fact, only about 23% of workers today are unionized, a sharp drop compared to a few decades ago. Imagine being a worker with little protection, your voice lost in the noise of corporate machinery. That's what it's like for many employees in the UK, where legislative changes dating back to the Thatcher era have left unions with little power to advocate for better wages or job security. Without the clout of strong unions, workers are left vulnerable to wage stagnation and fewer workplace protections. Wage inequality continues to widen, and many sectors of the economy remain untouched by collective bargaining. Contrast that with Scandinavia, where unions remain a force to be reckoned with. Think of a workplace where over 70% of employees are unionized.
Wow,
as
okay,
is
that's
the
a big
case in
percentage.
Denmark and Sweden. Here, unions aren't just about securing better wages. Think of it as a partnership where unions work hand in hand with employers to create fairer, more equitable workplaces. Even more impressive is something known as co-determination, a practice in Scandinavia where workers are actually represented on company boards. Employees have a voice at the very top of the company, influencing decisions that affect everything from wages to business strategy.
Okay, I don't know anyone in the UK who has anything like that. That is a big deal. I can't believe 70% of the workers in Scandinavian countries are unionized. That is it, because it's not that popular. Like they said, I think it was, I can't remember the exact percentage, 23%. Not many people are part of unions in the United Kingdom. I don't think I am.
It's a system designed not just for today, but for the long term, encouraging sustainable business practices that benefit both the company and its workers. Sadly, this idea of co-determination is mostly absent in the UK, where unions have little say in corporate governance. This leaves UK workers feeling even more disconnected from the companies they work for, which naturally leads us to the next point. Every morning, they get up, rush through breakfast, and spend hours grinding away at work, only to come home exhausted with barely enough energy to enjoy their evening. This is
That
the
is so
reality
true.
of many UK workers.
That is true, yeah.
The work-life balance here has been a long-standing issue, with many people feeling like their life revolves around work instead of the other way around. It's no wonder that burnout and job dissatisfaction are becoming more common. Here's an almost unbelievable fact. The average full-time worker in the UK clocks in around 41 hours a week, and that's just the average. Plenty of employees feel the pressure to stay late or take work home with them. The result is stress, burnout, and a work culture that often values long hours over actual productivity. It's a recipe for disaster, both for personal well-being and for the companies that depend on these workers to be efficient and innovative. On the other hand, in Scandinavia, things look remarkably different. In Denmark and Sweden, the work week ranges from 35 to 40 hours. But here's the catch. They focus on productivity, not just clocking in hours. Imagine being in a workplace where the goal is to get your job done efficiently so you can actually go home and enjoy your life. That's exactly what the Scandinavian
See, sometimes, in the job, you could finish it quickly, but you still got to be there, so you just take your time.
Approach is all about. In Denmark, for instance, only about 2% of employees regularly work long hours.
Wow.
It's not because they're slacking off, but because they've mastered the art of working smarter, not longer.
That is good.
And what do they do with all that extra time? Well, they focus on leisure, family, and overall well-being. Danes get to enjoy afternoons at the park with their families, take time for hobbies, or just relax at home without the stress of looming deadlines. That's a far cry from the UK, where many workers feel chained to their desks. Sweden has even experimented with something pretty radical, a 6-hour workday. And surprisingly, it didn't tank productivity. In fact, employees were not only more productive, but they were happier too. And let's not forget about vacation time. Scandinavian workers enjoy a minimum of 5 weeks of paid vacation, compared to that to the UK, where employees typically get 28 days. And you can see why Scandinavians consistently rank amongst the happiest people in the world. It's not just about working less, it's about valuing life outside of work, something that feels almost revolutionary compared to the work culture in the UK.
Yeah, I do think it's definitely very hard to have a good work-life balance. Sometimes it just feels like your whole life revolves around work, sadly.
This strange culture also leaks into other sectors, like the next one. But before we move on, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. In the UK, the education system can feel like it's all about discipline and testing. You can probably imagine rows of students with their heads down filling out standardized test papers, with teachers more focusing on maintaining order than fostering meaningful connections.
This is bringing back memories.
Students. The emphasis on standardized testing means that from a young age, kids are taught to think about grades, assessments, and rules. Sure, discipline has its place, but what about emotional growth? What about creating an environment where students feel safe and supported? In contrast, Scandinavian schools take a completely different approach. Over there, the focus isn't just on academic achievement, but also on building trust between students and teachers. Teachers are encouraged to get to know their students on a deeper level, to understand what makes them tick, and to create a learning environment that feels inclusive and supportive. This leads to a classroom where students feel valued not just as learners but as individuals. However, many other things affect the children in the UK, as you're about to see. In the UK, there's a pretty large welfare system, but here's the thing, it's not quite as robust as those in Scandinavian countries like Denmark and Sweden. It's like a safety net with a few holes in it. There's help, but not always enough to catch everyone who needs it. In terms of investment, the UK spends about 20 to 24% of its GDP on welfare. That's a huge number on paper, but when you compare it to Denmark and Sweden, where spending hovers around 26 to 28%, the difference becomes noticeable.
Yeah.
More than the money, it's about quality and the range of benefits people receive. For instance, people in the UK frequently complain about the system failing in important areas such as healthcare, child benefits, and in unemployment support. One big reason for this is the fact that the UK's welfare system...
Yeah, that's the scary thing when you think about it. Because anyone could lose their job, especially with what's happening with the current climate. And most people, including myself, if you lose your job and you got to take a few months off to find another one, that could really, you're like on the verge of homelessness pretty much.
Is deeply
scary
centralized.
times.
On the top, decisions on how welfare money is spent are one size fits all. That's the problem, though. What's good in one place doesn't necessarily apply to another. Now let's see what Scandinavia is like. Many would say that Denmark and Sweden have what could be called a dream welfare system. What if you lived in a country without crippling health costs, no student debt, and the best benefits for children and pregnant women so that families can flourish? These countries have learned to marry people and private partnerships to deliver high-quality services that are not only efficient but sustainable. Inefficiency is a big part of the problems in the UK, especially in the public sector. For instance, the National Health Service has been under huge pressure for years, but you might not know that it's been stretched by underfunding and an aging infrastructure. Often, when you try to reform the public sector, you cut the costs, but that doesn't mean things get better. In fact, it almost always ends up leading to more inefficiency and poor quality service. Compare that to Denmark and Sweden. These countries are forward thinking on public sector reform, particularly in healthcare and tax administration. For example, in Denmark, they've embraced public-private partnerships, which means innovation isn't just allowed, it's expected. New IT systems, streamlined services, and new focus on productivity have modernized their healthcare system. Denmark has done it, even as their population ages, they've ensured that their public sector can still keep up with demand. Sweden has also made significant reforms, particularly in healthcare. Since the late 1990s, they've allowed private providers to enter the market, which has led to shorter hospital wait times and more efficient service delivery. And here's an interesting twist. They've introduced co-payments for healthcare services. This helps ensure that resources are used efficiently. But they've also put caps in place that low-income citizens aren't left behind. These reforms make their welfare system sustainable even when times are tough economically. So what can the UK learn from all this? Well, by adopting similar reforms, the UK could potentially address its public sector inefficiencies and improve the long-term sustainability of its welfare system. In any case, it's not about copying the Scandinavian model exactly, but rather learning from their successes and finding a way to apply those lessons in a way that works for the UK. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to watch these other videos.
Okay, so this video is very informative. I definitely learned a lot about some ways that the UK could definitely improve. I mean, the trade unions is a big part. Most people here aren't a part of a trade union. You do have like The train drivers always on strike, so I'm pretty sure they're part of a trade union. And quite a few people are, but I would say it's definitely the minority. And is the healthcare service better in the Scandinavian countries? You have to let me know in the comment section below, because although our healthcare system isn't the best, I am grateful it's a lot better than the United States, because if something happens to me, which obviously I do not want anything bad to happen to me, I don't want to go in debt trying to just survive and live and put that burden on my family as well. It's just a lot of bad stuff that happens, stuff like that. And the work-life balance is definitely a big part as well. It feels like in the United Kingdom, your whole life pretty much revolves around work, and you spend more time working than you do actually living, and then you're kind of stuck in a cycle when you don't really have any freedom as well, because the unemployment rate is definitely growing. People are getting made redundant. People are losing their jobs. So hard to find a job nowadays. And yeah, it's just very scary, because if you lose your job, you know, you're going to really be struggling, and you could even go homeless in a couple of months. Like, it can happen to anyone. So let me know your thoughts about this video. I found it very interesting. Definitely a lot of things that we can improve on in the United Kingdom. But what do you guys think in the comment section? See you guys in the next video. Have a great day, everyone.